Okay, guys, we're live.
All right. I like it.
So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our deep dive on turning opportunities into clients. For those who are watching us the first time, deep dive is not just another conversation about business. Our streams are playing, like there are lots of conversations out there on YouTube about business, and we don't want our streams to be just like those. Our streams focus on exploring business challenges and finding practical solutions for business owners, and we want everyone to leave our streams with a practical insight. So, as always, we have our guest, networking and marketing expert, Vic Nichols, leading this conversation. And joining us today, our guests, Marianne Axon and Kadimo Gilvey. If you want to be a guest on one of our podcasts, one of our streams, email us at vmn@victormnichols.com or DM me. My name is Diana Spinka. I'm the producer of this stream. And let's um, um, let's let our guests introduce themselves. And I think ladies first, right?
Yeah. There you
Good
have
morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Marianne Axon. I am a mom of four and an entrepreneur for 20 plus years. I've owned a restaurant, a bakery, made lots of mistakes in business, and also had a lot of really amazing opportunities and wins. And I feel like now at this point in my life, I just want to serve and lead other small businesses to success.
awesome.
My turn.
You go, Kadeem.
All right. So my name's Kadimo Gilby. I'm kind of the exact opposite. I just started entrepreneurship. I want to say last year. Just started my company, trying to get new clients. I do IT, networking, cybersecurity, that kind of realm. So yeah, I'm here to gain the insight, gain the knowledge, and see where it takes me, basically.
Well, this is awesome. Well, by the way, Kadeem, you're already off to a running start because you now have a new client in me. Okay, so I'm going to be your new client because we had our little technical issues before we got on this. So, see, it's already working.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Strategic partnerships, right?
And, and there you have it.
Strategic partnerships.
But actually, this is really great that we have, this type of, I'll say dichotomy. Somebody's been in the business for so long, somebody's brand new. And one of the things that Deanna and I had been talking about with some of these live streams is how can we get folks together. Obviously, I'm interested in finding out about what your challenges are. And I think this particular title is turning opportunities into clients. So one of the things I think might be a way to kind of kick this off, and it doesn't have to be either one of you, is what are you currently doing? Looking at what you're trying to get done, what your goals are, and looking at the opportunities you have, and how do those, would you like them to lead to new clients, or how are you leading them to new clients? Because I think that's probably one of the ways to start this conversation. Because I think that's something that people have, they don't understand. They see opportunities, but they don't understand how to convert them, you know what I mean, into new clients.
Yeah. So for me, what I've been doing recently, because normally what I do is I just study, do my job, try to get better, increase my skill set. But what I've been doing recently, after meeting a guy at the gym, his name's Nick. He invited me to your networking event, the one in, I think it was Livingston.
Yes, the Crystal Plum.
Yeah. So I went there, and that was my first time being in a room with a bunch of professionals and talking to other people. And not only did I just enjoy it, like bringing me out of my shell, but I also saw the value in getting potential clients and things like that. And I know the way it works. You're not going to go to one event and then immediately, pull 5, 10 clients, but it's going there repeatedly and, just showing face, and then eventually something happens. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get out more, speak more, right? I'm doing this event. Like I normally don't do things like this just because I'm reserved. But I'm getting out my shell because in order for people to know what I do and know how good I am, I got to go tell people. So yeah, I'm just working on my network and
Mhm.
trying to expand that. So that's what I'm doing right now.
I have a question for you. From that event, did you meet someone, not the person you came with? Did you meet someone or anyone at that event that you felt would be a potentially good connection? And if so, what did you do about that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I didn't meet anyone specifically that I felt could use my services because I work for businesses mainly. So
Mhm.
businesses with IT infrastructure, right? So
Mhm.
that's end users, printers, networks, things like that.
Mhm.
Other people that I saw there, they were doing marketing or web design and things like that. So I didn't really meet anyone there specifically that could, lead to that. But then, you never know. They might know someone else that needs something. Or I mean, I met you, right? You're a sales guy, marketing. You could teach me how to, kind of branch into that field. But as far as someone who needs my services, I didn't get that. But
I,
it's okay.
I asked you that question for a specific reason, okay? Because that room was filled with people who would be your potential clients, okay? Um, there were presidents of universities. Well, there were two presidents actually there of universities that obviously have infrastructure and networks and things like that. And most of the clients that were there, I had mid-sized to large companies. I mean, obviously, you're not shooting for a Blue Cross Blue Shield or a coach, or a coach bus, or academy bus. But there were a lot of clients in that room. So one of the things that I asked you that question because I wanted to know how you were hunting and gathering. So that's really the kind of thing where you've got to kind of broaden that. You got to broaden your view because the majority of the people in that room could have used your services, at least half of
Yeah.
them. Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll talk about that a little bit more. And plus, there's some folks that I'm thinking of right now that I can lead you to, that I can kind of turn you on to, who could utilize the services that you provide. A couple of them, one of them's my one of my old partners that I know could use your services on some of the stuff she's working on. So things like that. So we could talk about the prospecting part of it, but I'm so glad that you were able to, come and kind of see that kind of an environment, and then we can talk about the strategies and techniques that we can use in order to get, in order for you to kind of open that up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know. So
Yeah.
Marianne, I know you have a long career. So I'm going to let you jump in at any juncture you'd like.
Well, your event, first of all, I call it the Met Gala of business events because it truly is. If and I'm sorry, Kadeem, but I have to say it. It really is, your network and putting yourself out there. And it's hard because it's intimidating. I feel it. I still feel it. But you really do have to put yourself out there and with those connections, because that is your key to success. It really, really is. Your network is your network, especially now. I feel like it's important for us to do that hard thing, and that's to get out there in real life. I mean, we're all to the point where we're comfortable with social media and we know what it takes on social media. But unfortunately, I feel like we're to a new place in business and in networking where we have to be out there. We have to make that connection in real life. We have to have those conversations, find out the needs of our network, and that's how we build it. The only way for us to succeed at this point is to raise each other up. And I think we're past the internet. We have to get back to grassroots, and that's in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And there are different, I've been, obviously getting back out and doing my networking, certainly after my event and things, following up with people who came, and I'm realizing that which I've always realized throughout my 40 years of doing this, is that the personal interactions and the personal connections are really where my business comes from. I mean, we're doing this right now, and I'm doing the social media, and Deanna and I are working on things, and I have other platforms that I do different things on, and that's great for connectivity. But actually conversions are not coming from those kinds of interactions. They're coming from when I go out and sit down with a potential client or an existing client, and we go to lunch and we're looking at each other and we're talking about different things. We're talking about each other's, what's going on in our
And you
lives.
said it, lunch, have a meal, break that bread. Like, we need to interact. It's so important now. Coffee, it doesn't have to be expensive or exclusive or glamorous. Just get out there anywhere, Dunkin' Donuts, and just make that connection.
Yeah, Kadeem, do you have any? And you probably don't, but I'm gonna ask you this question anyway. Do you have like set things that like you want to go out on X amount of meetings in the course of a week or anything like that? Have you thought about those kinds of things? Because your business is new, so there's going to be certain structures that you're going to want to put in place. When you've been in business for a long time, it just kind of happens because people call me almost every day. But that's, over a 40-year period. When I started, I couldn't get arrested. I was like, where is everybody? I'm like, what the hell? Do I got to stand on the street corner and leave a flag or some shit? I didn't know what to do. So that was a different thing. And then I just started pounding the pavement, man, going to places. And I walked into, I'm going to share a quick story with you because it's a great example. When I first started my business, I was walking around Millburn. Now think about this. This is a long time ago. Okay. This is like in the 80s. I'm walking around Millburn and I printed up these flyers, right? Telling about what a great, graphic design place I had. And I did printing and stuff like that. Well, I didn't even really have money for postage. So I would make these flyers up and I started walking around the towns, right? And I'm walking around and I'd walk into these little stores and I said, could I give you this flyer? And they're like, oh, sure. And they take it. Now they probably threw it in the garbage, but they took it. And I did that all day long, right? On this one particular day. There was a restaurant, and you may remember it, Marianne. It was a restaurant called 40 Main Street, okay? On Main Street in Millburn, all right? So I walked to the place, and the door's locked. So somebody comes in, because it was too early for the restaurant to be open. So somebody comes to the door and they peek their head out and, can I help you? I said, I just wanted to give this flyer. So the gentleman who actually owns the place was the one who opened the door. He takes the flyer. This is no joke. And he and I are best friends to this day. He takes this flyer, he looks at it and he says, you know what? I want you to come in here for a minute. He was having a meeting with his entire staff. Okay. And one of the things they were talking about was public relations. Now, here I am, this little young, I was a kid, really. I was a young guy. He asks me in front of his entire staff, do you have a public relations person? And I said, actually, I do. He looks at me and he looks at them. He says, I told you, even he has a public relations. So I see he invited me to stay for the meeting. I stayed for the meeting. And then after that, he talked to me. He said, so what services do you provide? And he started buying his printing, his promotional products and stuff like that. This was all these years ago. To this day, Danny Canizzo and I are best friends. Okay. And he was a lifelong client. And he got out of the restaurant business. He got into real estate. He's an extremely successful, talented guy, singer, the whole 9 yards. But it was all because I was out there giving out my little flyer. I ended up with a lifelong client. He was a client of mine for years and years and years and spent a lot of money with me, right? That was one of my very first clients. It's all about being in the mix. That's when I think about that story, I'm like, how can you make this stuff up? Here's a guy who's meeting with his staff and he asked me to come in and take a look. And that kind of stuff happens all the time.
It's true, but you made that opportunity. I have a similar one. And when I opened my bakery in Woodbridge, New Jersey, on Fulton Street, right off of Main, I decorated it in a French theme, and it was beautiful and fresh flowers. And the days went on, and the people weren't coming. And I'm like, where is everybody? And at one point, I was actually, because I was a little dramatic, because when you sink all this money in and you believe in it and people aren't coming, I was crying. And then I realized I had to get creative because it just wasn't happening. And I'm, pretty soon the rent's due again and I don't have it. So I started making cupcakes and bringing them to each business on Main Street. I would choose a couple every day and interact. And it worked. I then met the mayor of Woodbridge. I then met, the general manager of Lord and Taylor, to which I started doing fashion shows, got into event planning. I mean, that's how it happens. But unfortunately, staying on the floor crying in your beautiful new business is not going to get you there. You got to actually, and I didn't want to hear that from myself, that you actually have to go out there and get it. It's not going to come. You just got to get it.
Yep.
So real quick, that was actually one of the first things that I was going to do. But like my mentor, he had the kind of same business that I have. He has a bunch of clients in New York, around the United States, etc. And he was telling me not to do that because he said going door to door would make me look, desperate and, basically hungry for any type of business that I could get. And I mean, I didn't agree because the way I got to where I'm at now was just from me, like you guys were saying, reaching out to people, talking, putting myself out there. But he has more experience than me. He has like 20 something years in the business. So I didn't want to go against what he said.
Sure.
But he did say, go out, meet people, go to networking events. And that's what I started doing. But you guys kind of just reinforced what I thought originally. So I'm going to give it a try. Just walk up and down Bloomfield Ave.
Especially if it's an area. I mean, I'm not going to, because not only one thing works, Kadeem. Okay. It's like making a cake. You can't make a cake with only one ingredient. So there are different things that you put into the mix in order to make something work. I always use that as part of my arsenal. And even now, 40 some odd years later, and I still enjoy a cold call. Do I have to
mention, though, the best part of that story? I still have. So those, keep in mind, driving down Main Street in Woodbridge, those connections I still have. Those business owners I can call. They're going to answer on the first ring. And vice versa, because we made that connection 14 years ago and have grown that to which has, oh my gosh, quadrupled with my network, just them connecting. It just really is worth it to put that work in.
It's surface area. So it's like, it's an arrow. I say it's an arrow in the quiver, Kadeem, to go out and do, pop into a couple of places. I mean, and I talk to everybody. Okay. I talk to everybody. The guy who is my mailman, right? And he and I got into these deep conversations, and I found out he had a side hustle, and he needed some advice on publishing. He actually published something. He was publishing a book. Okay. He was publishing some things, and he and I got talking and whatever. And I was able to help him grow his business just because he and I talked. I mean, most people don't talk to their mailmen or mail women. They just, get the mail from them. But I'll talk to everybody because I don't know who they know. I don't know where they come from. I don't know what they're up to. And frankly, I'm just genuinely interested. I just find it fascinating what people do. But the cold calling thing, it also keeps you sharp. Okay? It keeps you sharp. It helps that self-esteem. When you're walking up to somebody and it's cold, there's a lot of things that have to happen in a very short period of time. Okay? One, you have to make sure they're not repulsed by you. Okay. Two, you have to approach them in a way that there's a value proposition there. It's all of these things kind of happen, and they happen in a very condensed period of time. It is magnificent practice, if nothing else. If nothing else, it's great practice, because being referred to somebody is obviously the ideal way to get a potential client. We all know that. But the cold call, it helps you, keeps you sharp. I do it just to stay in practice, honestly.
Yeah,
I still do it. I'll walk into a place if I'm out somewhere, and I'll pop in and I'll say, hey, my name's Vic Nichols, and I'm involved in, publishing and marketing and advertising. And I don't know if there might be something that you might need. I'm looking at your place or whatever it is. And I strike up a conversation. you know. And sometimes it leads to nothing. Maybe I just met a nice person,
Mhm.
but it keeps me fresh. So it's just something to keep in the back of your mind.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I think we now can get to questions that our guests have, and also I want to remind our viewers, everyone who is listening to us or who is watching us, don't hesitate. You have a comment sections on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and you can type your question, and we'll try to find a solution for your problem.
Okay, cool. So do you have some questions, Deanna?
Not yet, but we can start with the ones that Kadim and Marianne might have.
Oh, okay, got it.
damn, I forget what I was gonna say. Oh yeah. So about the cold calls, um, how would you recommend, getting those type of leads? Should I just go on Google and then identify my ideal client and then just kind of look for those in my neighborhood and then just ring them up, or what do you recommend?
Well, I think you are in an age that is truly a gift, okay, which is LinkedIn.
Mm.
Okay, LinkedIn is kind of the new community. It's kind of the new main street, so to speak. Where you can really go on LinkedIn, and if you start to really use those tools, you can start to segment the folks that are most likely to need, want, or have or have an openness to your service. Okay, and you can then because you can hone in on them because in the old days there was no LinkedIn. Okay, and if you bought a mailing list, maybe it was good, maybe it wasn't. It was old. The numbers didn't work. There was no internet. There was no. I couldn't DM someone. I couldn't. I couldn't email someone. None of that. Right. All I could do was call them. That was the only thing I could do was call or show up at their joint. That's the only two things I could
Yeah.
do. So now you can be a little bit more stealthy with it and utilize LinkedIn. I utilize LinkedIn all the time. Granted, people reach out to me, but I also spend a little bit of time on LinkedIn every week and look at what's going on, the kinds of people who are interacting with each other. They may not have interacted with me yet, but I'm like, wait a minute. This is the marketing director for such and such and such and such. Let me send a note, right? That's a cold call. That is a cold call. This person doesn't know me. They're not connected to me. They don't even have any people in their sphere that I might know. And I just do it as a hard cold call.
Okay.
And many times, because if they will look, sometimes they'll look at my profile and they'll be like, okay, well, this guy's been in business for a while, and you know what? Let me at least acknowledge him. And those are ways in which I can start those dialogues. But I always shoot for the stars. I shoot for the biggest people. I shoot for the CEOs. I shoot for the CMOs. I shoot for the decision makers because I got nothing to lose. And if it's done in a way that is deferential to who they are, okay, so you're letting them know that you've seen their profile, you've made a decision to reach out to them, and here's why you're reaching out to them. That's going to raise your ability to get somebody locked in. Kind of that's kind of the new version of walking the streets. Okay, you don't really have to leave your place to do that. Because the old days you didn't have a choice; you had to go out and do that. But now that's kind of the new kind of walking the streets is LinkedIn. I swear by LinkedIn for business contacts and prospecting. Yes, there are other platforms that I've gotten clients off of, and there's other platforms that I've used, Instagram and all kinds of other things. But the most professional platform is LinkedIn. And I wish I wish they could pay me for that, but for this, but it's true. LinkedIn is really. What about you, Marianne? What do you kind of use for your?
So, I mean, I love Instagram and of course Facebook, and you're right. LinkedIn is, it's the key to everything. Do I love it? No. I mean, it's not glamorous, but you have to be on it. You must be on it. If you're not on it, like you said, you're really not utilizing the best platform for business, and that's LinkedIn. So I find myself now, I push myself daily to be on it because I'm not used to it. I've not been on it as long as, so it's new to me. So I push myself every day to first learn more about it. There's a lot of different aspects and things I should know. And like you said, making those connections. and I do force myself to do them cold sometimes, because you see someone, you come across someone, wow, I need to connect with them. And again, it's just a hello, or you just something simple, make that connection. That's
Yeah, because there's also sometimes things in their profiles that
yeah.
are not necessarily business related directly to business. Like as you can see, and you have it in your background too, Kadeem. I have a guitar behind me. I mean, I've been in a band for 43 years. Okay, music is obviously an integral part of what I've done throughout my entire life. I sometimes see in people's thing where they'll mention something about music or whatever. That's a line in, and I'm interested in what they do for a living, but
Mhm.
we have this commonality of music. So I'll mention, oh wow, I noticed that you're a musician and blah blah blah. Well, once you get a musician talking about music, forget about it. Okay, I mean, forget about it. I had lunch with a friend of mine the other day, and he's a very very accomplished musician. He's a super accomplished business person. 75% of that lunch was we talked about guitars. Okay, we talked about music, and we bonded because that's a common thing. So those are other things too. Is that there's common? I'm just using that as an example, but of those commonalities where you can strike up a conversation with somebody that's not directly related to closing a deal or
Mhm.
making a sale. It's related to building a rapport, building a friendship. And then the other part that comes because they want to do, people do business with people they like. You know, there's nobody on this call, and there's probably nobody listening, and probably no one around that you can possibly imagine that's in business that does not replicate the things, the goods and services that we can provide. Okay, there are very few places in the old days when you had the telephone company. That was the only telephone company, so you had to buy your phone service from them. But other than that, there's other people who provide these goods and services. So what's the differentiator? What is the differentiator? Price is, in many cases, is not a driver for people. People have this misnomer that price is a driver. No, value's the driver. Value's the driver. Because if that were the case, there wouldn't be Tiffany's, there wouldn't be Gucci's, there wouldn't be premium brands. People wouldn't drive Ferraris or Lamborghinis or anything else. They're not, because they're all cars, right? Right? They're not selling a car, right? They're selling a brand, they're selling quality, they're selling a feeling and experience. All of that is part of what they're selling. It's about relationship, right?
Yeah,
But
so similar to what you were saying, most of the leads that I've had, because not saying I haven't had any type of opportunities, but I have had opportunities to do business. None of them just fell through, or they all fell through. But I made most of those doing just my regular hobbies, right? So I do jujitsu, and then there's a guy who he works for Columbia Bank, and his mom runs a tax business, and he was saying how she wanted to, upgrade her infrastructure, set up a backup server or something like that. And I made that, I got that lead just from doing jujitsu. So with that though, we were speaking. He said his mom really wanted to do it, but I kept following up, and you know, he'll reply and say, "Oh, I'll let her know," or when she comes from vacation or whatever. And I also had another project where this guy opened up an office in some office leasing space, and
Mhm.
I went on site. I did the site survey, drew up the diagram, got the quotes from the vendors, and he just kind of like ghosted me. So after I did all that work, so how do you how do you suggest handling doing all this work for potential clients and then nothing coming from it?
there's a that, well, I'm gonna Marianne. I have my own thoughts on that, but I can just tell by the look in your eye. So I'm gonna let you jump in on that because I can see it in your face. So jump in on that, and I'll add anything to what Marianne's gonna say.
So I feel like you're always building the foundation. That's what it is. You're building the foundation. Um, in my experience, usually 2%. It's really low when you nail it on the first time. It's just the way it is. But what you're building is that foundation, that relationship, that trust. Now, what you might not get is the sale, but what you might get is a referral or maybe an invitation to an event that's going to lead you to 5 more high powered. I think the key to it is believing in yourself. You have to know that you're building something for yourself, for your business that's important, and you have to get out there and build it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, in that case, like if a client is like ghosting you, can we ask for feedback? Like what was not done correctly, or how do they feel about the service? So we started kind of like getting back in contact.
You can and that was kind of where I was going to go. You can do that. There's a real way to do that though. There's a way to do that. Because it's not like it's not like government work where you can go and say to them, can you give us an evaluation? And then they'll get on the phone and tell you. It's a little bit different. But what you can do with something like that, Kadeen, and I'm going to ask you if you did this. So the person ghosted you, right? All right. You just didn't hear from them again. Now, that's an opportunity. As bizarre as what I'm going to say sounds. It's an opportunity because they were originally in contact with you. So instead of moving toward them as if you're pushing them into closing this particular sale, acknowledge to them, you know what? It seems that this other thing that we were talking about is not going to work out. Situations change, whatever. I'm just so glad we had an opportunity to meet. I would love for us to grab a cup of coffee sometime and talk about how, and here's key, how I may be able to help you and you may be able to help me with some other things that may come up, and put that instance or situation behind you. A couple of things are going to happen psychologically. They're going to realize they dropped the ball. Okay. They're going to realize they dropped the ball. You're coming back to them in a way that's very open-armed, right? Very kind of like embracing. They're going to feel almost obligated to acknowledge you. And at the very least, and it's back to what Marianne was saying, at the very least, what you're going to get out of them is a referral. You will get a referral out of them because they're realizing that you put in time and effort, but you were cool about it. You weren't like, man, I put in all this time and effort and you didn't even give me the time of day. Screw you. No, that's not going to do it because they're going to cut you off. They're never going to speak to you again. If you do it where it's, hey, that happens. It's cool. I'm interested in building a relationship with you. All of a sudden it turns it around. And they were like, you know what? This guy's really cool. Let me see how I can help him.
Yeah. So with this person specifically, there were 3 instances, right? So the first time he had an uncle who was opening up a bar. He wanted to set up, POS systems, all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So this was my first real potential job. So I got my mentor who lives in I think he lives in Upper West Side or something. Uh-huh. Drove all the way from there down to Eatontown near Jersey Shore. Took the time on his busy day.
That's a long
to do 2 site surveys just for the guy to take our quote and then go with some loan company who said in order to get the money, he had to use our client services or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that was strike 1. Strike 2, he referred me for something else that, never came up. And then this time, I don't want to say you wasted my time because I did learn from it, right? So going through the whole process of meeting the vendors, getting the quotes, doing the on-site surveys, I took all that in as experience. Right. But this was the 3rd time that he essentially wasted my time. So how do you? I mean, I just said forget it at that point because if it takes you, because he was in communication with me, and there was a point where I said, hey man, I basically summarized it and said, this is the last time I take an opportunity from you because it hasn't came through straight. And then he got his act together and then replied, hey, come on site, do this and that. Cool. So I did all that stuff, and after I gave him the quotes, I gave him, you know, a quote with the best design, one that's like kind of mid tier, affordable, and then a lower one that's like, I guess you could say, I don't know how you would explain it, but just like just cheaper, affordable.
Mhm.
Um, and I sent him all of that stuff, and then no response. So I kind of chalked it up to, if it's going to take you that long just to, respond to a quote, what are you going to do when I ask you to pay me, pay me my money, right? So I kind of just ended it there and
Mhm.
didn't take it forward because I didn't want to deal with all that extra stuff.
Well, you gave me a background which changes the complexion of what I'm going to say here, okay? Because there are people who will waste your time. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is somebody who has a history. So, if in fact he ever comes back to you again, unsolicited, and says, "Hey, Gadim, I got something hot for you," blah, blah, blah. Here's what you do. You say, my business has grown and I can't do evaluations and or proposals without being paid for it. Okay.
Yeah.
So now he has to pay for discovery. All right. You want a proposal? I'm going to do it. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to do all of the things professionally. But you know what? I don't work for free. All right. And you don't have to say it quite that starkly, but
Yeah, I guess you could.
you know what I'm saying? So here's what here's what the cost is. It covers my, expenses for coming out here and doing the right kind of discovery and proposal for you. I have clients of mine now, obviously, because we have different lines of work. There's some things where we just, we charge a lot of money for discovery, okay? Because it's a lot of research, it's interviewing, it's all kinds of other things on the marketing and advertising side. But where I've had those repeat situations, because we have all faced them, Kadeem, and I've had clients like that, and then I add the pain in the ass tax. Okay. I'm like, look, I'm a small business and I need the work, but I'm not going to let you walk on me, because if I do let you walk on me, you're going to continue to walk on me. And now I become a carpet, not a vendor. Okay.
Exactly.
So here's how you're going to do it. You're going to pay me for my services. And then if you decide not to go with the quote, that's fine. I've been paid. Oh, and by the way, you're going to pay me in advance. Okay. He has now set up an expectation that he's 3 strikes. Okay. This is a baseball game.
Mhm.
He's basically wasted your time 3 times. If he comes back to you again, I wouldn't even solicit him anymore, to tell you the truth, because he goes on the "I'm really not interested" category. He may come back to you. You simply say, my business has grown, things have changed, and here's how we're going to have to engage. If he does engage in that way, then at least you're covered for your time and effort, right?
Mhm.
If he doesn't pull the trigger, because you've learned the lesson, right? You don't need practice in doing proposals. I say that to people all the time. I don't need to practice doing proposals. I've been doing them for decades. All right. So if you're not serious about doing business, just tell me. Is there somebody else? Are you bidding against somebody? Is there 10 people? Is there one person? Do you have obligations? Whatever it is, pre-qualify that person, just like they're pre-qualifying you, right? They're going to ask you credentials, or can you do it? They're going to grill you a little bit if they have technical questions that they have. Do the same thing with them, pre-qualify.
Yeah.
Especially somebody like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I learned my lesson with that. From now on, I have to make sure that this person's, I mean, and it's hard to do, especially with someone that you're just meeting,
Mm-hmm.
but I will have the pre-qualifying questions, and I'll be wary of what to look out for. Right.
Yep.
If they're slow to reply and it feels like they're, kind of dodging or whatever, then I'll just fall back and then let them come to me if they really need it.
There you go, bro. And that also, you start to finesse that a little bit. You're going to get better and better and better at it. And it's going to come quicker and quicker. You're going to be like, look, you're a nice person. I think you're great. We can have a beer together, but we're not going to do business together. I already know that. You already know in your head that this is not somebody. And I have tons of people like that. And I've had situations where I've never done business with them. However, they've referred me some amazing people.
Yeah.
And they've never used me themselves, but they've referred me amazing people. I would take that every time.
Yeah, that's why even though it didn't work out, I did my best work, right? I gave him different designs according to different price points,
Mhm.
and sent a detailed email saying what each thing does, why I'm recommending it. So even though it didn't work out, you said I don't need to practice, but it was good practice, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna take that, to the next one and just handle it better, I guess, emotionally. You
It's a
know?
It
that,
strengthened
that's
your
important.
business and you
Yeah.
personally to have to just put your head around that whole situation. And the sad thing is no one prepares us. There's no book. I wish there was, but that's why we do.
I'll get on that.
Vic, why haven't you written it by now? I mean, come
I'm gonna get
on.
on. I don't know. I'll get on that.
But there should be, but there's not. So we as a network, which, that's why I bother Vic a lot, because we have to look to those that do have the answer. And pretty soon, Kadeem, you're going to have those answers that you can share them with other new entrepreneurs and help us out because we need it.
And Kadeem, do you have a group of folks that are similar in your, provide services that would be complementary to your services, like kind of building your tribe, so to speak?
Yes. So my mentor, he has his own company. He's already established. So he has, the manpower and all that type of stuff.
Mm.
So if there's something that I can't do specifically, like let's say I build out the security infrastructure, so I set up the firewall, the policies, all that. He would come in, do the penetration testing, make sure it's secured, and then kind of give feedback on what could be um, optimized. So when it comes to things that I can't do, I'll have him in my pocket as a consultant. And I
Mm-hmm.
also have people that I work with who do, wireless and all these other things. So anything that I don't specialize in, I
Mm-hmm.
always have someone that I can bring in and then provide a solution. So yeah, I have a little group.
And do you guys have reciprocal arrangements, meaning that because what you just talked about is outgoing business, which means you're bringing them business. Do you
Yeah.
also have them bringing you business?
So yeah, my mentor right now, any client that he has
Mm-hmm.
where it's a network infrastructure project or anything where he just needs extra hands, he'll call me and then contract my services. The other guys that I speak to, they don't really have their own business, but
Mm-hmm.
like I work with them and stuff like that, so
Right.
I know what they're good at, and I just have them fill that gap. So
Got
yeah, I don't have the
So
reciprocal.
those the folks that you're close to that you're doing business with in that capacity or any other capacity are massively valuable resources for leads. Okay, for folks. But the thing is, it's not that they don't want to give you leads; it's that you have to remind them that you're looking for leads. Okay, and it's the hardest thing to do sometimes because you're just like, well, damn, I'm right here. Of course, okay. You assume that they're thinking that, and it's happened to me a billion. It still happens to me, and they're like, "Oh, Vic, man, I didn't think of you for that," and I'm like, "Dude, you've known me for 10 years. You know what I do." You know what I mean? And they're telling me they hired somebody else who does what I do, and I'm like, "You got to be kidding me, right?" Okay, and that was my fault. It really was my fault. I did not make sure that I was staying in contact with some of those those good, folks within my network that could bring me leads. I'm just not asking for it. And I sometimes, no matter how far along you get, bro, you forget to ask for it. You
Yeah.
got to ask for the gig. And I'm like, okay, that was my fault. I won't let that happen again.
So, and how do you do that? Do you just call them once a week and say, "Hey, do you have a work for me?" Or how do you do that?
That's a great question. There's a couple of different ways to do it depending on the level of relationship you have with them. If you're always in contact with them, you can drop that line, at one of your conversations. You know what I mean? If you're always in contact with them. If you're only in contact with them when you need them, you pop them a note and say, "Hey, man, things are going great. How's everything over there? By the way, I just took on this client such and such. If you have any clients who do this, who need this type of a service, right? Let's say you performed a particular thing. I'm really interested in doing more business in that vertical, right? If you know anybody, it would be great if you could pop me their information, or maybe we could talk about it and I could get some leads that way." It's it's well, first and foremost, it's staying in contact. So Deanna, you're absolutely, to bring that up, it's definitely being in contact. Two, it's being deliberate about being in contact. You've got to set up reaching out to folks and put it in your calendar, because you're not far enough in your business where you're going to have a whole lot of inbound stuff that you're navigating. Because I'm going to go out on a limb that's saying you're not getting 20 inquiries a day saying, hey, Kadeem, I want to hire you, right?
Yeah.
You will. You absolutely will. But that's not the way it is right now. So now what you want to do is make sure that you're setting aside every day, it could be 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, that you're prospecting, right? Send out those notes, make that phone call. Now, even if you made one phone call, that's 5 phone calls a week. And I suggest you do more than that. But let's say you did 5 phone calls a week. That's 5 opportunities you didn't have that week if you didn't reach out to those people.
Yeah, I follow this dude. You probably know him, Alex Hermosi.
Yeah, I do.
He says to work in units of 100. So like, if I really wanted to grow my business, which I hear him say it all the time, but you know how people hear something, you know what to do, you just don't do it.
Yeah, bro, I do.
Yeah, so he was saying, just reach out to cold called leads, try to do 100 a day, and then that 100 adds up, and like you were saying, that's 700 opportunities per week that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So I'll probably start smaller, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's a tad aggressive, and it assumes that you have nothing to do except eat and go to the bathroom.
yeah.
To make 100 calls in a day, you'd need a call center to do that. I mean, it's not realistic.
Yeah. So I'd probably do like 5 or something.
Yeah, because the other thing too is that sounds great. It's great soundbite, but the fact of the matter is that we're human beings. You will not be able to make volume calls, prospecting calls, because we're people. Okay. One, some people are a little bit less, what's the word I'm looking for? Less susceptible or less to rejection. Okay. But we all have this inner issue of being, even the best salespeople in the world have an inner issue of like, when people say, no, I don't want to talk to you, don't bother me, call me later, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you're doing that in an intense thing for all day long, at the end of the day, you're going to be like, okay, I need a shot and a gun because I'm not, this is not making me feel real good. Okay. So I suggest that you be more realistic and spread it out a bit. Even if you made 10 calls in a day or 7 calls, 5 calls in a day, you're gonna feel better about it, because you have to think about.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sure, go ahead.
How many did you get business cards when you were at the at a VIX event? Were you able to connect and get business cards?
Yeah, so I got Vic's business card. There was a group of people that I was with that I met while I was there. I got their cards. So yeah, I got some and I gave some out as well.
Mm-hmm. So those people's cards
I was there too. And
yeah, well, Mary was there. Yeah.
And I was with Jennifer Shuck, which you have to meet her. So Jen is also a master networker. So all the years later, I see her do the same thing every time. And she collects business cards like baseball cards. Like, she's on it. She will connect, get that card, because, and I know we have the same, I think, philosophy with it. We want to build the network, of course, but the connection. So in order to do that, we have to know what everyone does. So we'll follow up with either a call or a text, just something to keep that going. So it's very important. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, well, we should be with digital business cards. I don't know. All I know is that they work for me. They work with Jen, and we have amazing, huge networks. So, it's important to keep getting them and giving and getting them.
Yeah. And Kadeem, a prime practical example is, when this is over, one of the first people you should reach out to is Marianne.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I'll introduce you to Jen, and then your network will legit grow by freaking Monday.
This is also, I'm going to take this opportunity, because I think we have like 10 minutes left. I'm going to take this opportunity so you guys can also have a bigger umbrella as to what it is that we're actually trying to do here. The goal here is ultimately to build community. Okay. We're having these deep dives, and I'm going to let Deanna explain to you what our program is going to be later on that we're going to launch. But my interest here is to build a powerful community. Okay. Where we can have obviously interchanging of information, but also that grist for the mill. Okay. Exchanging of information and learning things is absolutely fantastic, but you can't take that. You can't pay your PSE&G bill with that. Okay. We're also talking about the Benjamins. We're also talking about doing business. We're also talking about making money. Okay. And I want everybody to be clear about the fact that I'm focused on that as well. The pathway to that is relationship. The pathway to that is being genuine in what you're doing. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to screw up. It's how you fix them and how you deal with them. You can't be in business without screwing up. I still screw up daily. Okay. But it's how you fix those things and learn from them. Obviously don't do it again, or then that's on you.
Mhm.
All of that is to be focused on building this network that we're trying to build. So Deanna, I also want you kind of let them know what our overall goal is on these streams and what we're moving toward.
Yeah, we're as Vic said, we want to build a community of our like-minded individuals because we feel like support is crucial for growing your business. And I had a call with Marianne a few days before our stream, and we connected on on a thought that when you start something, or even when you keep growing your business, you want to have a supportive community, not just community that will bring you more clients, but the community that will be helping you grow emotionally, because we're all people and human beings, and we need people to be comfortable, to have less stress, less anxiety. And these streams are dedicated um, to giving our community practical insights and practical advices, and because we feel like it's one of the first steps towards our bigger goal. And the bigger goal is to launch a few mentoring programs where we will be bringing more experts, marketing business experts, to the group of our participants to help them grow. And these streams is kind of like sneak peek of what's going to be happening during the program. And now we're learning, we're doing marketing research, we're giving back to the community to see what the people need. And I think we're onto something, because I like doing that, and I see that it's really helpful to people who are listening and watching. We get great feedback, and we only have like 5 minutes left, and I would love to hear from our guests what you guys are going to take from this meeting. Key thoughts or key insights that you think you can implement into your business.
So yeah, I'll go first since I'm like the newbie here. But, so one thing, or the main thing I'm going to take from this is put myself out there more, reach out to people, not be afraid of rejection, because I guess rejection is like the roadblock to success. So just get it out the way and make sure I give myself a head start.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it.
And before you go, Mary and Kadeem, if you do need, and we can talk about the subject, if you ever need any advice in that area, you want to chat with me or whatever, we absolutely, I'll be more than happy to help you in that area. Okay, I love this stuff. Okay, okay, Marianne.
Yeah, Vic doesn't sleep. He just answers calls and texts.
So I think what I'm going to do, I'll just be honest. I went to a networking event last week, and I had a stack of cards. I'm going to go bother people. I'm going to get my stack, my new ones, because I haven't looked at them. And I'm going to call these people or text them and make those connections. We need that. I need that as I struggle everyone is struggling right now.
Mhm.
We have to be there for one another. How? I don't know. Call them, ask them.
Yeah,
That's the
that's where
key.
it starts.
That's what's going to solve everyone's problems. Let's all connect.
Mhm.
Easy.
Yeah, so also like as you said that we struggle, we might don't see that other people have any problems because all these social media usually shows that everybody else's life is perfect, it just yours sucks,
Yeah, don't look at
but
my social
these
media. That's not reality. Reality is I wake up, every morning and think, oh my God, like, how am I getting through this day?
Yeah,
And then I
that,
make my
that's
plan. And usually my plan is
that's
calling my
exactly what you mean.
network to get me through this day. And then a lot of people call me too. It's just, that's what we're doing now. That's what's working.
Yeah, and I guess one of the goals for these streams is to remind people that we all have our challenges, and it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to talk about this.
We have
Because
to.
I'm a little into like psychology and stuff, so I love remind people that there is something everybody struggles with.
Sure,
Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. And this also, what I'll tell you, what I'm taking away from this is getting back into those regimented kind of things and actually doing some of those. It reminds me, and one of those other things too, Kadeem, is that I'm going to practice my guitar more. Okay, so
Yeah.
okay.
I'm gonna get some lessons from you, man, because I suck, bro. I'm gonna keep it real.
So, that's one thing. That's one thing I know I'm going to do because I don't practice enough. So, all right. Well, this is fantastic, and I think we only had like 2 minutes left anyway.
Yeah,
I think
anybody has any more questions? Maybe
anything
no.
last second.
I just want to say this is like my first live stream, and I wasn't nervous, but I feel like I did pretty well. And you guys made it easier, right? You made me more comfortable and allowed me to, express myself easier. You didn't put me on the hot seat. So just want to say thanks for the opportunity, and
Thanks for being here.
yeah,
Thanks for being here on a Saturday morning, bro.
On your birthday.
And on your birthday.
yeah. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
And Marianne,
Birthday.
thank you
This
so
was
much.
wonderful.
For not
Thank
only-
you. It's
not only
always a
assisting-
pleasure. Kadeem, I'm in your network now. Reach out.
Yeah, I'll reach out. I'll reach
Here
out.
we go. It's growing already.
It is. It is. All because I took the initiative and reached out to Vic after he gave me his card. I did my first like real cold call on you.
Yeah.
On LinkedIn.
Right.
See?
And
It
and
works.
worked,
Here
right?
you are.
it worked. Right? Boom. And it worked. And this is going to be something, our relationship is going to grow. Obviously, I wasn't kidding. I want you to come. I'm going to hire you to do some work for me because I desperately need it. And that's how it works.
For sure.
Okay, everybody. Thank you a lot, and I'm gonna start recording right now.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, again for watching and for listening to us. And I'll see you on the next stream.
Okay, great.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Thanks,
Have a
everybody.
great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Take care.